Since Webfishing came out, I made one custom map from scratch and a few ports, like Gmod's Big City. This map was huge when I ported it over, bigger than most if not all other custom maps at the time. This got me thinking about just how far I could bend webfishing into whatever I wanted, so I decided to try and make a mod that adds a ton of content into multiple areas of the game. At first I didn't know what to make the mod about, but eventually I landed on Minecraft since I felt like it would fit perfectly. The main part of the mod would be the huge Minecraft map, so that's where I started. If you don't already know, there's already a Minecraft custom map for webfishing called Webcrafting, and while it's definitely good, it's also really small. I wanted something that was huge, so I got on Sketchfab and ended up finding this model. Not only is it huge, but it has a village, some caves, and some other nice features, so I knew that this would be the one that I needed to use. After porting it to my project, I had to do some resizing to make sure that I could jump up the blocks easily, and I also made the village where you spawn at since it's in the middle of the map. And then I had to start adding the water. At first I was going to each pond and adding their own little thing of water, but then when I got to the edges of the map, I realized that wasn't going to be able to blend into the ocean water well. So since I was also looking to save space where I could with this mod, I instead just raised up the ocean high enough to cover up most of the river and ponds. And then I went through and added single things of water on the ones that the ocean couldn't reach. The ripples that you see pop up in the water are also something that I have to manually add in, as they aren't just fish, but they also decide where meteors can land. Usually this isn't that big of a deal, but if a meteor was to land on one end of the map while you're on the other, there's a really good chance you wouldn't make it over there before it despawns. So I decided to put all of these spots in the pond right beside the village where you spawn in, so that way anytime a meteor spawns, you will automatically know where it's at. The last thing I had to do was place down the webfishing buildings and NPCs, so I basically ended up creating the normal webfishing spawn inside of the village. I also decided to keep the lighthouse and put it beside the river so that way you can get in it and easily look over this huge map. At this point the main islands map was almost done outside of some extra touch-ups. But before I moved on to that, I wanted to move on to the rest of the mod to make sure I could get it all working, starting with a custom private island. I could be wrong about this, but out of the roughly 20 custom maps that are out as of me writing this, none of them have custom private islands. So since I might be the first to do so, I wanted to go all out on it, just like I did with the main map. I thought the obvious decision for the first island would be to turn it into the nether, so that's exactly what I did. I went back to Sketchfab, grabbed this nether model, ported it into my project, and did the same starting process that I did with the main map, and to my surprise, it ended up working on first try. Kinda like the main map, this nether map was huge, with there even being multiple layers and biomes that you can explore. So I placed a few bounce mushrooms around to help you get around easily. Now that I got the maps mostly finished, I moved on to making custom titles since they were probably the easiest part of this mod. I knew that I wanted every title to be automatically added to your inventory, but I wasn't exactly sure on what words to use for them. But I eventually settled on the word Minecraft and every name tag Easter egg like _Jeb and Dinnerbone. With those out of the way, it was time to move on to something a little bit bigger, which was custom props. The first idea was to turn a whole bunch of normal blocks into props that you could place. I started this process out by turning the grass block, crafting table, diamond block, cobblestone, and some others into just normal props. But then I realized I had the opportunity to smash two birds with one stone. See, because the custom maps were so big, I was going to have to place a ton of bounce mushrooms everywhere to help you get around. I realized I could just add in a slime block prop that works like a bounce mushroom, allowing you to easily bounce around the map wherever you want regardless of where you are. And for the final prop I decided to add, I used Minecraft's debug texture and turned it into a massive block that you can place anywhere. At this point we had the Minecraft maps, props, and titles, so now it was time to fill in the most important section of web fishing, the fish. I obviously went ahead and added in the normal Minecraft fish, the sea pickle, the puffer fish, but then I also wanted to be able to fish up massive versions of the ore. So I went ahead and added a few non-sea creatures, which were just all of the ores, even including the unused ruby that I made catchable in the void. I also wanted to make sure that you could catch these on any custom map, and since the default option for all water and web fishing is ocean, I decided to make it to where all the fish in my mod can only be caught in the ocean. But fish are just one of the things you can collect though, as there's also a ton of loot you can get from metal detecting. For these items, I ended up going with ones like the totem, XP bottle, and the other items I have on screen now. Metal detector spots don't actually spawn randomly around the map, instead they have to be manually placed. So to make things easier on you guys, I placed a good bit of these spots in the village where you spawn, while also including some others spread out across the entire map. And with that, I finally had new features in every part of web fishing that I wanted to add content to. Let's call this version 1.0 to keep things simple. You probably notice I sound different in this clip compared to the rest of the video, and that's because this part is being recorded a couple days after the rest of the video because at this point the mod started to break. See, while I did add some features in every part of web fishing that I wanted, I didn't add everything that I had in mind just yet, as I was trying to make sure everything could work first. I tried to go back and start adding stuff like a working nether portal, more fish, and more metal detector loot. But for some reason, anytime I tried to add new features to the 1.0 version, the mod would corrupt. Because it kept happening, I knew I was going to have to rebuild a chunk of the mod, but in the meantime, I went ahead and published the 1.0 version on Thunderstore since it was fine outside of those missing extra features I just mentioned. And it would also allow me to find out about any glitches I missed in my own playtest. The next day after I woke up, I got to work on rebuilding the mod, and once that was finally done, I spent a while fixing some bugs, and then I was finally able to add in those new features, starting with the nether portal prop that can bring you to the nether, the new metal detector loot that I have on screen now, and finally the new fish which I have on screen now. And no, the bee is not a mistake. With those new features, the mod was finally at the point that I had in mind when I started the project, so I pushed the update out on Thunderstore, and then started finishing up the video that you're watching now.